Hello again, everyone, and thank you for joining us again at 3 p.m. for our second session today of Eyewear Artwalk Behind the Scenes. I have with me Austin Norris of R&D Optical Lab. How are you today, Austin?
Doing well, Charlene. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent, thank you. And, Austin, you're a testament to the amazing opportunities that happen as a result of this show. You're one of a couple hundred people that I've met during the course of this event that are really game changers for this industry. I want to get into a little bit about why I'm so excited about you and the contributions that you've already made to this industry and that you'll continue to make. But before we do that, let's just get to know you a little bit, Austin. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you, Charlene. You're very flattering. I appreciate those kind words. I haven't been long in this industry, but I can tell you right now, I've been working about 4 years in the eye care world, and it kind of grabbed a hold of me, and I haven't wanted to do anything since. I started off as a dispensing optician working on the floor, and then gradually went more medical with my pursuits. I did a lot of contact lens related therapies, working very closely with optometrists, doing ortho K treatments, myopia management, scleral shells, that sort of thing. My current employers picked me up actually a few years ago, and they gave me an opportunity I couldn't resist. And they kind of took me out of the clinic and more into the sales capacity. And so ever since, I've been providing, services to our partner accounts and trying to just help anybody and everybody wherever possible.
And that's one of the reasons I've never left this industry. I've never been an optician or optometrist, but I've held lots of jobs that I've been able to learn enough aspects of the industry that I probably could work alongside an optician or optometrist and be pretty helpful. Even though I don't have that skill, that knowledge, I've invested in learning my industry and really taking my own career strides. But that entrepreneurship of this industry is something we don't talk about enough. And the fact that you just entered the career, I know you're a younger individual, you're just kind of starting your career in general. And I'm, when you told me your age, I'm not going to share it to the world, but I was shocked because you're just like so knowledgeable. But you were an optician and you didn't just, do the regular optician's, job. You focused on a specialty. Myopia, performance. It's a really great sweet spot for any optician to position themselves in because the need is absolutely great for opticians to become an expert on the optical side of that and not the optometry side. And the fact that you then got recruited into a lab, and I know a little bit about what you're doing now with business development and getting to know these doctors and helping them to innovate their business. I mean, that's like a dream job for a lot of people that they could just make their own, design their own career, especially if they have a good employer. We don't talk about this enough. There's some, disruption in the industry with turnover, but there's some companies that just get it right. They really take care of their employees. They make sure they have what they need. I happen to know Ronald Cook, the owner of R&D, and I've had the privilege of getting to know Tom and Greg. And talk to me a little bit about your experience just as an employee in this industry.
Sure, I would be happy to. It's actually one of the things that I love to share, and it makes a lot of my customers happy to know that I'm happy. Let's back up the clock for a second. When I was an optician, I had the privilege of working with the products and the services from the lab that Tom and Greg were at, and so I got to know them even before I was even employed by them, and they were good people. Now that R&D is a fairly new lab, but Ronald is very motivated to bring forward the best for his customers and do it more so in a partnership orientation than a wholesale account-based structure. He deeply cares about the people that he does business with, and that trickles down the line, I would say. And so I don't have to go out of my way to convince my bosses that I have ideas to help my customers, which makes it very fun, very engaging place to be.
And I agree with you. And just for those who have been around a little bit, Ronald is from the Cook family, who formerly were one of the most beloved families in the industry, even a dynasty family. They own the Diversified Labs, and a lot of people were a little heartbroken when Diversified got acquired, and the family just kind of moved on with their lives. But Ronald said, "No, I'm not done yet," and he founded R&D Lab. And shout out to Ronald Cook for the incredible resilience. You have to have resilience if you're going to be launching a lab in today's day and age as an independent. And, I know that I know a lot about R&D. He's been a big contributor and supporter of some of the different platforms that I've launched over the last 7 years. And he is an investor and innovator in the industry. He does support other independents as well. But talk to us a little bit about some of the things he's done to become more kind of diverse with VSP. And I know you're going to talk a little bit about some of this new lens technology. Tell us what makes R&D
Absolutely.
so special.
So I would say that R&D is special because when we sit down to converse with the ECPs, the people that we're approaching, trying to help out with these partnership agreements, believe it or not, Charlene, the wholesale lenses are like I want to say the least of what we talk to them about. The main reason is because we're providing product, right? We can provide them with a very good, very reputable product portfolio, but then we tend to shift our sights over towards how can we help build their business in other ways. And so we take a very three-dimensional, very dynamic view of how we can help partner with them. And you hit the nail on the head. A lot of it is based on technology. A lot of it is based with our vendor partners that we have acquired through our time at R&D that are just as motivated to bring forward unique solutions. And so there's a couple things that we're actually going to be bringing to Eyewear Artwalk this year that I'm really excited about that are very innovative, very unique, and I think are going to be a big hit and be very successful for some of these offices.
I love that. And I want to talk about that, but I want to go back to something you said earlier. You had mentioned that, you do have the type of support from your higher ups that if you pitch an idea, they don't just shoot it down. They do listen to you. And I know that in my career, that was one of the things, one of the reasons I decided to become an entrepreneur is I just had all these ideas that I couldn't implement. I know the very short time that we've been working together, you're, going to be exhibiting both and the Performance Vision Lounge, as well as the Factory Lounge.
Mm-hmm.
And if you missed our earlier session, we talked a little bit about the lounges. The first floor of Eyewear Artwalk is going to be more of a showcase of an eclectic group of brands from around the industry. We'll have our dry eye lounge there and a lot of brands that have both a consumer-facing message and a lot of them do have optical retailers. So you can learn about the product, whether you're an ECP or just somebody from the community saying, okay, what are some of the options that I can maybe educate myself on? The second floor, we're going to have a section that is more of this kind of B2B, direct-to-consumer hybrid education, because a lot of these topics, like performance vision and like holistic health and wellness, are still new topics, even for the professionals in our industry. So Austin's going to get to spend a fair amount of time talking about this new color boost lens technology, which we'll get to in a moment. But then in the factory, which is a part of our section of Eyewear Artwalk, which is exclusive to eye care professionals. So you need to have an ECP ticket and be a confirmed optical or optometric professional to get into this experience. And this is where our labs are hanging out. And they're going to be showcasing some really cool technology in the factory. And then, of course, our third floor, if you see behind me, is my manifestation and visualization of the vault. We're really going for a cool theme, which we'll be releasing soon. And we're just adding some great elements like a luxury fashion show and a lounge and a celebrity chef. So there's going to be a lot of really fun, exciting things, no matter whether you want to learn, play, indulge. You're going to have so many opportunities there. But Austin, now that everybody knows what these different components are, what would you like to dig into first, performance vision or the factory?
Well, let's talk about the performance vision, Charlene, because it's one of the things that motivates me the most in my position. And as we grow as a society towards more technologically advanced, occupations, anything that revolves around the use of our eyes for anything other than just normal vision, we tend to run into barriers and things that we need to overcome. Here's an example. I've had several patients that I've dispensed to in the past when I was an optician that were machinists. And so their example of performance vision was quite literally turning a trifocal upside down so that they could see their heads up displays. And so it starts with those tiny little things and those little creative efforts. And then we end up coming to these really revolutionary products that enhance someone's ability to accomplish a specific goal. And so you mentioned, and I'll let you dig into it more because you brought this to my attention, but you mentioned these, this performance gaming glasses, these other things that are going to be present at this event that I'm super excited to kind of help deliver because I know R&D has been putting a lot of time in behind the scenes to get these things up and running too.
Absolutely. And, we've been doing these virtual events now for 4 years. And we talked in the earlier session about how there's a lot of entrepreneurs and innovative ideas coming to market in the industry, but they just don't have a platform. So, my Vision Show, which is the virtual platform that we've had for years to host sessions like these, brought Hue Lens to light. And Hue Lens was present during an event that we did where we brought esports gamers to our stage to talk to the optometrist, like you said, about the machinist and tell them what their ergonomical and occupational and recreational challenges were. And Hue Lens was just blown away. And they said, I know that gaming was going to be a market, but no one in the industry is talking about this. So I didn't even think that it was a market that we should be identifying. But it seems like the public needs it, and nobody's really produced it yet. So they set to producing it. And Ronald was the lab that said, whatever you make, I'm going to buy. And he put it in his lab. And he's been selling these lenses. He actually made a pair of glasses for Snoop Dogg and also for Young Dirty Bastard and the Wu-Tang Clan. We'll be sharing some links below. One of them is my interview I did with Dr. Daryl Glover and the manager of YDB, Danny Hamilton, where he talked about Dr. Glover had a very rich history with the Wu-Tang Clan. And he talks about how much he loved ODB and how excited he was that, now hip hop is like partnering with the optometric industry to bring gaming glasses. Like, do we make this stuff up? It's so crazy, right? It's so only in today's modern world could we just take advantage of all the tools and make our own rules. So that's the kind of background. But the Performance Vision Lounge was designed kind of as a continuation of that, because when we were building Eyewear Artwalk, Trevor and I had some narratives that we wanted to showcase. And Vito Mena, Dr. Vito Mena, who, if you haven't met, you will meet, he's the key champion. So he's the kind of leader of the whole Performance Vision initiative. He's a part of the Special Olympics. He flies around the country, even around the world in Canada, talking to different organizations and colleges about all sorts of performance vision, mostly sports, but some gaming. And he's opened up his Rolodex and introduced me to all sorts of people who are mostly optometrists and neuro-optometrists who are very passionate about this. And all of them, like you, are really excited that somebody is pushing the envelope here, because we all know that there's billions and billions. I think it's 3.5 was the last number I heard of gamers. We all know that all children have the same behaviors as gamers. And gamers aren't the only market that we're addressing here. All of us have a lot of similar behaviors to gamers. Our eyes are constantly having to accommodate to different devices and distances and lighting. And it's not strain that our bodies and our eyes have ever been through before. This is new, post-COVID especially. So thank you for taking the leap here, but you already had a history in performance vision, especially. So what are you thinking about when it comes to the opportunity for gamers and modern lifestyles? Where do you think that fits in?
So, here's the interesting thing. We're approaching a digital world, right? And as controversial as it may be to kind of say that that's the route we're going, it's the route we're going. We can't deny it. And we can't, we need to be focused on innovating so that we can help ourselves adapt to that new world as opposed to trying to push back on it. And so I look at a lot of these, young gamers that are going through and actually turning that into a source of income. They're turning it into a livelihood, or they're at least making it a very, solid hobby that they're spending quite a lot of time doing, and they're engaging with their own crowds. They need the help. But then, you said something too. It's not just that aspect of it. It's not one dimensional. Here's an example. When I think of performance vision, I think of anything that enhances a specific task, right? And so,
wow, that's a pretty basic definition. It applies to everything, right?
Right. But if you think about it, like what would a 911, how would a 911 dispatcher, be very, benefited, or they would be benefited by these type of lenses, because they're looking at, 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 monitors, depending upon where they're set up, and so there's so many different dimensions to what this could do and how this could be applied that it's very motivating to see. Right now, I think we're taking it and we're kind of boiling it down to one specific niche market, but that's how it starts, right? If I can give you an example, I have certain clients that I've helped, start from their base business. They had, a very seldom amount of clientele. They were online retailers only, and we've built their business to, quite substantially. But they are unique markets. For instance, one of my key clients, he provides lenses and he provides frames to first responders. And so he designed a product that was solely tailored around first responders. Shout out to Mike at Frontline Optics. If you all want to take a look at him, he's a great guy and his company is doing extremely well and he has a fantastic product. But those are the things that I think are amazing about performance vision, because you can get specific. And R&D is actually bringing a lot of performance vision technology with them as well to this. In the form of some other technology that helps boost performance vision in the optometry or on the optometry side, right, in the clinic. And so I'm super excited about this.
And I hate to say this, but people do not invest in safety nearly as much as they invest in performance. Mm-hmm. It is very common that somebody will spend $800 to $1,000 on a monitor just to have a better resolution, a clearer picture, better clarity. So why wouldn't they spend, $600 to $800 so that their natural eyes work that way without mm-hmm. those monitors? You talk about all of these different opportunities. It is difficult and challenging for the average consumer to find a regular pair of glasses. Google searching doesn't really yield a lot of the results that would lead them to come to a local eye care professional that can really spend the time to assess your needs just for your basic occupational needs. Performance vision needs a lot of time. You need to be able to talk to these people and understand their history. And when you do a niche, it's great because if you know all the welders and you know all the engineers and you know all the 911 dispatchers and you know all the first responders and you know all the gamers, you don't have to ask them all these questions about their ergonomical challenges. You just know because you're hearing it day in and day out. So it really allows you to be thorough without having to research all of these different niches. And you really should do something you're passionate about. Some people are passionate about pickleball and golfing, and mm-hmm. those are hobbies they have anyway. So why not invest the time and learning to support very passionately a market that you understand? So I really love the details that you're going into here, Austin. Do you want to kind of dig into that a little bit more?
Yes, I do. And you hit the nail on the head. And kind of rounding back to your initial question, what makes R&D different? We're willing to pursue those markets, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter how niche it is. We can see opportunity. And if there's opportunity, we're going to pursue it, from gaming to safety, all these other things. But you mentioned, welding. All of these different niche subgroups need to be convinced that they are special. And they can do that through receiving products specific towards enhancing their profession, right? They don't need to wake up and think that they need to go to the optometrist just to receive another mundane exam to get just to go to Walgreens and purchase a pair of over-the-counter readers, right? And so I think the trouble is convincing to the patient that they're worth the investment. And so I really love how specific performance vision gets because it does. It tugs on the heartstrings. I walk up to a gamer and says, what if I told you I could improve your game, right, with this pair of eyewear? I walk up to a machinist. What if I could told you by just simply altering a lens design, I can give you the clarity that you need and enhance your performance so that you're going home less fatigued, less concerned about your eye health, and overall just more happy, happier. And so those are the things that I think are really motivate me to stay where I'm at and kind of pursue these opportunities through R&D because everybody that I'm surrounded by are also pursuing these opportunities.
And just to take that a step further, Austin, it's no secret if you're an eye care professional, an eye care business in today's day and age, marketing has become almost impossible. Social media, content creation, running ads. It's hard to even know what to do and what not to do, let alone to find the resources to gamble, essentially, which is what you're doing when you're advertising today. So a lot of people just don't do it. But when you can turn a couple of, welders or a couple of gamers into your advocate and they tell all their friends, questions, you can't undo that. That's word of mouth that just keeps giving. One of the wins that we've had with Eyewear Artwalk that I'm most excited about is we had a local esports lounge come in and volunteer to do this huge Mario Kart experience for us. And the reason they're doing that is they run these kids camps, children that come in and do these gaming competitions, and they see the kids and they know the parents have questions they can't answer. So they're coming not just to do a game, they're coming to learn. They want to dig in and just, corner one of you doctors, one of the doctors, or corner one of the experts like you and ask you everything, because they have so much catching up to do and they know it. Because they get questions. What are the best classes? Do we need air coatings? What about blue light? They get those questions, but they don't know how to answer them. So, bridging these gaps into industries, B2B into other industries. We have a lot of questions about why is Eyewear Artwalk inviting other industries? Because everybody has eyes. They all have eyeballs.
It's the common denominator.
and they all want to see, right? They all want to see the best that they can see.
That's true. And at the end of the day, they need to experience that to be able to have the buy-in, which I think is amazing, to put together a playground for them to experience this. I have to say, I'm super excited about this esports tournament because, it brings a whole new type of individual to an event like this. And so it's very motivating.
So it's actually, we're going to be calling it V Sports. I said esports too, so not to correct you, but
V
Sports, because with the V Sports competition, we're going to have an optician blowing the whistle every 20 minutes to make sure the players look 20 feet away for 20 seconds to kind of enforce that 20-20-20 rule. Just a fun little quirky way to help people to learn good habits. So let's shift gears a little bit to the factory, because, I know that you have your whole team coming out. And if you want to talk a little bit about Tom and Greg's background and their knowledge, I've only just begun to get to know them. I'm already blown away by what type of experience they bring. Tell me a little bit about Tom and Greg, and what are they cooking up behind the scenes for the factory?
Sure. Yeah. So Tom Wydell and Greg Novak. Tom Wydell is our VP of Sales and our Chief Business Officer at R&D, and Greg Novak is our Chief Operations Officer. They will be present at this event. What can I say? They bring together. They complement each other in such an amazing way. They bring such an amount of experience in different industries. Tom is a seasoned industry leader. He has worked for a number of different optical-based companies, Bosch and Lomb, other companies as well. So he brings with him an entire career of understanding. Now, Greg, on the other hand, has only been doing optical, involvement for about the last 8 or 9 years, but he has come up through his entire career building business and finding unique opportunities. And so the two kind of bring together both the industry experience and the fresh outside look that this type of industry needs, and they complement each other really well. I'm very happy to be working for them. And so they're going to be out there. They're going to be sitting down in the factory lounge talking with people, and also going to be piloting some of the things that we're bringing with us. And so it's going to be a great time. I would encourage anybody who's listening to this that is going to plan on attending, go pick their brain. They love to talk about this. They love the people aspect as much as I do. And so it's going to be a good time.
And, when you're a lens manufacturer, you're getting all of the latest updates of what's coming out. What is the new tech? I mean, there are some people who are just now learning about some of the progressive lens technology that we're like, that's old news. And they're like, I don't even want to know what comes after this, because this is already super confusing. And then you have these larger companies who have all the marketing power in the world, sharing technologies that they, make it very clear that this is like the end all be all. But in reality, there's already new things coming out. And I've seen new technologies over the last 3 to 4 years. It's back in the old days when air coatings first came out, it was like always the next best thing. It seems like we're kind of hitting a very fast pace on the innovation curve with modernization of lens technologies. And I'll let you talk a little bit about some of the companies that are contributing to that. But talk to me about that from your perspective. I mean, you see it, you get to learn about these emerging lens technologies. What does that landscape look like, and how can we prepare for it?
Some people define that as a competitive edge. Oh, what's coming out one step away, one step ahead of everybody else. And I say, that's not the best way to look at it. What we're doing is we're fleshing out all of the uncertainties of these new technologies before we deliver it to the ECP. And so I think it's fun. anytime I get on a call and I have a vendor say, hey, we've got this new technology coming out. We want to pilot it through you. It is so amazing to kind of go through the fundamental conversations that need to happen. And so it's a very enjoyable experience. And then consequently seeing it grow from point A to point B, from, concept to integration and then delivery, is my favorite part, because when I get hyped up, I get excited to walk through the door of my accounts and say, hey, guess what? I have this for you. And here's why you need to be excited about it. And so I would say three of the things that we're bringing, or three of our vendor partners that we're bringing with them, are prime examples of new technology that hit the market, very, very, I would say a lot of people haven't probably even heard of some of the technology that we're bringing with us. And that excites the heck out of me.
So let's dig into that a little bit. And, I don't want to steal your thunder. I want to let you
No, you're fine.
shout it out. But start with number one. What is the technology you're bringing that you're most excited about?
So let's talk about, I'm going to kind of save the best for last here. So let's talk about the partners that we're bringing out, because it's not so much the technology as is the people that make it happen. And since we're relationship oriented, we want to bring the people that back us. We don't just want to sell you a product. We want to show you the story. We want to show you the people that brought it to life. And so the first kind of company that we're bringing with us is our company called Quantum. And some of you may be familiar with Quantum. They actually are the innovators and the industry leaders behind all of our in-house AR portfolios and other stuff. And so, the advancements that we've made in our anti-reflective coatings, our blue absorbing coatings, or just our dip coat, scratch coatings, have been from Quantum's, their Quantum's brain, behind all of this. And so they're coming out to kind of show how they've helped us, really develop a unique product, because I'm not lying when I say some of the in-house coatings that we offer are very unique, and they provide a different experience and a different performance for the wearer. So that's number one. Number two is actually a company called Optical Launch. And you want to talk about, industry leaders. Well, we got to experience, a gentleman and his brother who was, they were managing an optometric clinic, and one of them actually is an optometrist himself, see an opportunity and build upon it and kind of create a presence like no other. And so this company is called Optical Launch. And what essentially Optical Launch is it's an online vendor partner that we've aligned ourselves with that allow virtual try-on, digital frame board management, and access to a number of different frames, so that the optometrists that may or may not have the space to display these things have the ability to display more options. And the benefit is, as we compete with these online retailers, I'm not going to name many, but we all know some of the ones that we're in competition with, it takes the power out of the clinic. It takes it out of the optometrist's hands. This does the opposite, puts it back in. So the profit keeps the optometrist profitable while offering the patient much more expansive choice, as well as the ability to have a more immersive online experience without losing the intimacy of an in-office setting. Here's an example. If you were to go purchase a pair of glasses online through Optical Launch, you would go through, you would get fitted, you would do all this other stuff, and then those would be dispensed to the clinic and not the patient directly. So the patient's still walking through your door. Their optician is still handing them their glasses, making sure that the adjustment is correct, and still having that personal interaction. And so it puts freedom of choice in both avenues, which is really motivating to me. And so, any questions so far on those two before I kind of get to the last guy here?
Well, with Quantum, that's just, for those people that have been in the industry a long time, they know Quantum's been there since the spawn of AR coatings. And you touched on something extremely important. We do not talk enough about the power of collaboration in this industry. And you can't be a lab, you can't be a practice, you can't run any business in this industry if you don't have partnerships. There really isn't a way to be, unless you're like one of these large companies that owns everything. You can't really navigate without somebody, let's face it, watching your back.
Sure.
And I know Quantum has done an incredible job throughout the years, just staying on top of making sure independent labs always have that competitive anti-reflective lens technology. There's been this huge subject of cleanability and the fog coatings and all of these different things. And people take it for granted, AR coating technology. It is a fascinating science. And the reason we set up the factory is so that you guys can like show your toys and how it like behind the scenes and how it's made. Like a lot of these doctors, they pull the lenses out of envelopes, or you send them a complete job and they look at it and they see the rainbow. They know the AR coating's there and they throw it on the lensometer, like looks right. But how often do you really get a chance to, and I'm sure you do this more than usual, but really get a chance to explain to the doctors and the opticians what goes into that AR stack? Like what goes into that? You know, what made that lens? What's the difference between polycarbonate and CR39? All these different all these new indexes that are out there. It's too much information to learn just from getting your standard ABO. You've got to always be learning about the new stuff that's coming out. And the factory was designed to be, like you said, a playground for opticians, whether they're lab techs or not, just to really learn how the stuff is made. I would throw the question back at you. What do you think people should be looking for? What are some of the questions they should be asking when they do come into the factory and they're kind of starting with that hands-on experience?
Well, you know, I've always said this to people: if you're educated, you're invested. And so, you know, I can default to the old cliche: there's no stupid questions. I cannot tell you how mind-blowing it was when I first got into lab sales, when I actually had to say, oh, okay, shoot, now I got to learn how a lab works. I got to know what happens behind the scenes. And the moving parts are just, you know, there's so many, you can't keep them straight, you know, and each lab has these massive divisions to keep things running on time. And so every pair of glasses has 30 to 40 people behind it working an 8-hour shift, right? Wow. And so they're motivated to bring you the quality of the product that you're wearing on your face. And so I would say to anybody showing up, feel free to ask any questions. Where does it start? Where does it end? How many people do you currently have employed? I mean, those are things that I think, you know, kind of put it into perspective, because then the opticians can go and educate their patients on it as well, right? We have fallen into this realm, or we've fallen into this frame of thinking, no pun intended, that the glasses are just an object that we put on our face every day to help us see, right? And we lose a lot of the innovation and the effort behind the scenes that went into creating these things. And so bringing out quantum, yes, you're right. Quantum has been there since AR coding was a thing, right? And quantum actually is the key to why some of our online retail partners are so successful. We were able to reverse engineer different coatings and create a custom portfolio that no one else has for some of these people. And it was all through quantum. So, you know, there's layers. The last thing I'll say is, if you want to take it a step deeper, you have the lab layer, and then let's take it to the vendors that supply the lab, right? Because we supply the optometrist with the glasses, they supply the patient with the glasses, right? Our vendors are providing us with all of the materials and services and labor necessary to be able to do our job. So you can dig down deep into it, you know, probably infinitely. And so I would just say create a list, because I'm sure there are a bunch of people here that might be willing to dig into that. If they don't have the answers, I'm sure they'll find it.
I love that. And I heard that you might be sticking around after Eyewear Artwalk to, you know, kind of just really maximize your time there. You know, I want to come back to talking about Optical Launch, and then I know you saved the best for last. But, you know, talk to me a little, taking a little break from that. I know that you're in Arizona. Is that right?
I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
New Mexico, exactly. And what are the states that are in your jurisdiction in this kind of region?
I knew we were going to get to that question. So in this region, I have essentially California, Arizona, Utah, Colorado, and New Mexico. So those are my main areas. So I've got a decent chunk of territory. However, through R&D, I've had opportunities to work with people nationally, and my account presence actually stretches coast to coast.
And are you seeing any common denominators or like major differences when you look at like a practice in New Mexico versus one in maybe Colorado?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say, you know, and this boils down to a lot of different things. You know, the optical industry, like any other medical industry, is plagued by, bureaucracy and some other things. And so I'm not going to dip my toe too much into that, but I'm going to say, I'm going to go as far as to say, regulations differ between state to state. And so optometrists have a different level of choice as what they can put in their practices. And so I would say Colorado is really poised to be a very, very innovative state in terms of this, because they don't have some of the regulations that some of New Mexico have. I would also say population density also happens to be a major concern. I will blow your mind for a second and say that we have less than 100 doctors' offices in the state of New Mexico.
Wow, that is pretty incredible. And I got to tell you, having tried to host a physical event in, let's say, Los Angeles versus Denver, I got to tell you, any business that is in our industry that is not hyper focused on Denver is missing a very big opportunity. The doctors and opticians who are there are incredible. They work together, they share the information, and in other cities that we've gone to, they're incredible as well, but they have to work a lot harder to get that infrastructure. There's so much more required and demanding. Traffic is harder, pollution is harder, lives are more busier and demanding, population is denser in some of these more metropolitan cities. But what's really interesting about Colorado and Denver specifically is it seems as though they have a lot of that metro vibe, but still that kind of rural, like, mechanics. Like, it doesn't seem to be so hustle and bustle, but there's enough people there that, like, when you get like some traction, it's really easy to get the word out. It's really like they have a very good communication architecture. It's been pleasantly surprising, because that's what you need for an event like this. You have a little bit of time to get the word out. And if you can't use that grassroots, effort, everything in this industry needs to be grassroots. All of the marketing channels are owned by people outside of independent channels like you and me and all these brands we're bringing together at Eyewear Artwalk. So grassroots was essential. And in Denver specifically, a grassroots marketing strategy has been very effective for us.
Well, and it's true. And, you take Denver, and it has grown to be such a large metropolitan area, but still, like you said, they're still not abandoning that rural lifestyle. They've created an ecosystem that is very symbiotic. And so I love walking through offices, doors to offices up in Denver, because I'm always meeted with, very kind individuals that are always looking to have the conversation. And so, this event, from a selfish perspective, is I'm excited to meet some cool people. And that's not discounting New Mexico by any means, please don't misinterpret, but, Denver has this very unique atmosphere to it that is very intriguing.
Well, I'll let you kind of bring us back to Optical Launch,
Sure.
and then close us with Mimesys. Oh,
sure. Spoiler. No worries. Yeah, I'm just going to, Optical Launch, Chad and Brian Cox, they're amazing. And like I said, come on out. We'll be providing, some in-depth explanation on their product and how they can help boost practices. But let's kind of pivot to the final partner that we're bringing out. And some of you all may be familiar with this, but we partnered with a group called Horizons. And Horizons is actually a Spanish company. They're based in Spain. And so they had originally dominated the European eyewear market for quite a while. And then they kind of broke loose, they subsidized. And so a division of Horizons went off over here to start research and development for technology. And so they don't necessarily provide lenses, but they provide the technology behind our lenses. And one of the things that we're bringing out with us to this event is a new technology called Mimesys. And Mimesys is actually a specific approach to completely and 100% unique eyewear that is custom to the patient. So let's dip into that for just a second. When we talk about lens designs, typically what we're doing is we're surfacing a prescription into previously predetermined lens design, right? Whether it's a dual surface progressive, whatever the case may be. But we're doing it from a specific blank, And the surfacing process tends to follow the same, point A to point B type of production process. Mimesys breaks that. And what they do is they actually put a lot of the emphasis on the patient's individual wear pattern when determining how to specifically edge and surface this lens. So let's break it down from a function perspective. If you're a patient walking through a door of a clinic that has Mimesys, the first thing you're going to see is a tower with a set of visual reality or virtual reality goggles sitting on it. And so we were talking about the gaming, we were talking about all this virtual immersion. This is a really cool thing about Mimesys is it gives the patient a whole new experience, right? Let's talk about an issue that doctors have a lot of the time is, the patient is taking their word for it, right? You need progressives. Well, why do I need progressives? You need them, right? With no ability to simulate or explain or help truly make the patient a believer prior to actually receiving their first pair of glasses. Mimesys takes and flips it on its head. So when a patient puts on these pair of virtual reality goggles, essentially what's happening is they are going through and they're conducted through a series of tests. They're taught, they are shown a ton of images and just basically told to look around the room. Right. And so it kind of guides them through the process, so to speak. And all the while, what this piece of equipment is doing is measuring thousands of data points, basically, that is statistically trying to break down the patient's wear pattern. And so that wear pattern actually spits out a specific number that we take and we put into a specific machine that surfaces these lenses and creates a unique custom lens specific to that patient based on their sight path technology. And so it's so incredibly versatile in the sense that it minimizes distortion. We can always say, oh, we've eliminated distortion. Guess what? Companies lie to you. Distortion exists in lenses all the time. The distribution of your prescription around those distortions is how you get a clearer picture. So if you imagine peripheral distortion in the corridor of a progressive lens, right, by taking the sight path, analysis of the patient, we push that out to the margins, to the places where they're not even looking. And so people that are experiencing these for the first time don't even believe they're wearing progressive lenses because they're not getting that distortion. They don't feel like they're wearing it. They're getting the closest thing, in my opinion, to a single vision experience in a progressive lens. And it's custom to them. No lens will be the same.
This is going to have to be a whole deeper conversation. And from what I understand, Mimesys will be there talking about this technology and demonstrating. Is that right?
We'll actually have the machine with us. And so we'll have the ability to sit people down and experience what this is.
So definitely give me whatever videos and information you have so we can hype it up and make sure people know that this is a very cool experience. Typically, the only way you could see this is if you go to one of the major national shows in the country and, we're bringing it to your backyard. And if you want to differentiate yourself and have a competitive edge in a very busy area like Colorado, who, from what I understand, the average household income is very high there. People are willing to invest in the best. And this is technically the best that's out there right now, based on what you're saying. I don't know anybody else who's using virtual reality to measure, what progressive lens like where to put everything as far as the prescription goes and the position of wear and where to position the seg height. I mean, these are all things that have been a growing evolutionary process as labs and lens manufacturers. And I'm glad you kind of broke down that the lens design company is very different from the lens manufacturer. And we can talk about that more at Eyewear Artwalk. But understanding these things, a lot of people think that these lenses are all inclusive. And there's one company that licenses the tech and one company that makes the substrate, and then a third company that puts everything together, and then another company that can sometimes cut it down and put it in the frame, which goes back to your 30 people touching a pair of glasses. That's 4 right there, assuming there's only one individual at each of those stations, right? So, oh man, Austin, I could geek out with you all day, but I definitely want to just give you a couple minutes to kind of wrap us up here, and any last words that you'd like to give our audience on what to expect at Eyewear Artwalk.
Well, first of all, let me thank you again, Charlene, for bringing me on. It was amazing to talk about some of these things. If you were impressed by the Mimesys thing, I ought to tell you that that's just one dimension of that platform. And those of you that might be interested in knowing what else that machine is capable of, I can tell you right now it accomplishes way more than just a unique pair of glasses, which is astonishing to say. You'll just have to show up and have me talk to you about it because it truly is a revolutionary experience.
Absolutely.
Beyond that, I'm excited. So thank you again for having me on. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. And just to remind our audience, I know this will be a topic that you'll see talked about a lot more after the show, but our virtual world, our metaverse world, we'll be working with our vendors like R&D and our leaders like our really, Austin, you're a part of the younger millennial generation, so you're not afraid of technology. So we'll be equipping you with the ability to go into the metaverse and speak with doctors who can't be there physically. And we can have a lot of fun with a product like Mimesys and like Optical Launch and like the quantum product, and demonstrating these things. The visuals that the metaverse provides can really allow you to showcase these technologies, even for doctors who can't be there physically. So trust me, the more I learn about what we're doing in Denver, the more this event is basically building itself at this point. You definitely do not want to miss the inaugural Eyewear Artwalk event. So please come there physically. But if you cannot, know that you'll be able to access Austin and all the great products that R&D provides, both virtually through a setup similar to this. You'll be able to pop in, learn about sessions they're doing, even speak directly with the R&D team in Austin on a video platform like this during Eyewear Artwalk. And you'll also be able to create an avatar and wander through the metaverse. And we'll be working with the R&D team to build that out. So we can't really reveal anything yet, but it'll be a lot of fun to have that hands-on learning. So thank you. And please extend my thanks to the R&D team and all of the vendors that are supporting you guys so that you can show up and really give this great exhibition to the industry. We appreciate you guys. Okay, so I'm signing off. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye.